This is the beginner battle group series where I aim to deliver a basic deck that's usable for you guys to pick up and use immediately without any thinking. This video is aimed at brand new players that just want to pick up a deck and play. Hello everybody, I am Alpha Bird. Okay, we're looking at the beginner battle group for the 5th Panzer. So overall this battle group is a decent battle group for new players to play, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. I think on the maps that favour armoured divisions, this is a good armoured division, so you can certainly use it and play well with it. But on maps that don't favour armoured divisions, well, I mean, it's the same as all the other armoured divisions, isn't it? You want to play an infantry division on a map that favours infantry divisions. You don't want to be playing an armoured division. But this is a base game division, so everybody gets access to it, and it can still stand up to all the other armoured divisions in the game. So it still is a good division and usable. Let's have a look at the beginner battle group deck, and certainly you can pick this up, play with your friends, play with the AI, and it's a good usable deck. It's a good base game armoured division. Let's just go through a few of the units. I'm not going to talk in depth about the stuff that are kind of obvious to every deck, but we'll go through a couple of the units and why I've selected some. So the SDK said 250/10. This is probably a card that you could take out of the Recon tab if you were going to and make some changes. I think if you were, I would probably put the 250/9s in A phase instead of in C phase. But the 250/9s are really powerful against infantry, and if you've got tanks on the field that can take out the enemy tanks, then the SDK said 250/9 is a bit more protected. So it can roam about and destroy infantry, because obviously it has to get in quite close range to do that. So in A phase, I selected the 250/10. The reason for that is it's got longer range and it can fire against vehicles and destroy vehicles. It's only got 65mm of penetration, so you're not to use this really against tanks unless you're desperate. But it is cheap and it can take care of enemy half-tracks and enemy half-track spam. So it's kind of like an anti-half-track spam within some half-track spam. Not quite the spam though, you only get 6 of them. So that's why I selected them in A phase, but I would say this could be a unit that you might change depending on your playstyle and how you feel about the deck. But I'd give it a go as it stands. Like I say, the 250/9 is good in C phase to really take care of the enemy infantry and to help supplement your own infantry. You don't need excessive numbers because those 250/9s can roam about with some of the half tracks that are on your infantry and clear up some of the enemy infantry. So you kind of need less infantry on the ground, which is good because armored decks don't get access to as much as infantry decks. Let's just quickly go into the infantry tab. In A phase, I've selected the Panzer Grenadiers. You get 9 of them. I've also selected the Panzer Grenadiers with the Panzerfaust. This is to give you the Panzerfaust. So the reason I've selected it is for the Panzerfaust, but you only get 6 of them. So that's why I've not selected 2 cards to give you those extra 3. And then the other A phase card, I brought the Pioneers because they get the satchel charge. These are your CQC units in A phase. These generally will go in the forests because you don't really have enough of them to spread them into the towns as well. So these are generally to go into the forest. The half tracks are there so that they don't get shot before they enter the forest, and you get a usable half track as well. You might wonder why I haven't put the Ersatz in, and I would say that again this is a card that you could quite easily put in the deck, and most players will probably have the Ersatz card in because it's cheap. But it is also disheartened and it can get defeated rather easily. So at the same time, it's really cheap, but if you're not careful with how you use your Ersatztruppen, they can just get decimated, slaughtered, and surrendered pretty quickly. So as a new player, I feel like having the better equipped Panzer Grenadiers will do you a little bit better in the long run, rather than having the Ersatztruppen. Even in a 2-to-1 basis, I think you'd be better off as a new player using the Panzergrens until you get kind of more familiar with infantry combat and how to use the Ersatztruppen. In B phase, I've selected the second Panzergren card with the Panzerfaust. That's to give you some extra Panzerfaust in B phase. You've got 12 of them. I don't really feel like you need the other Panzergren card in B phase. And the other reason is you only get 2 cards of mainline Panzergrens. So you get more of them in B phase, but you don't get to select them in C phase, where you get the most. Whereas if you had the Panzergrens with the Panzerfaust, in C phase you only get 18 compared to 27. So that's the reason why I've done it that way round. The Pioneers are in there again as the CQC infantry. I feel like they're a better choice for new players than Stern Pioneers because they're a bit more survivable. And they still do almost as good a job as Stern Pioneers. The Stern Pioneers exceed where you've got really good micro and you use them in the correct circumstances. But I feel for new players, having the Satchel Chargers are much easier to use and you get almost the same result. You'll notice no infantry leaders. In the artillery tab, I do have the Battery Führer in B phase. And then in the tank tab, you do have some tank leaders. So no infantry leaders, and that's so that I can bring, or so that you can bring more cards of infantry in. More mainline cards in, rather than having to take one of these out for an infantry leader. I think if I were to take one out, it might be this card of Pioneers in A phase, but then, you know, 15 units of infantry is not that much infantry for A phase. So I've made the decision to not put infantry leaders in the infantry tab. Onto the tank tab. We'll start off with the Panzer IV H's. So I've selected the A phase card at 2-star. I think in 2-star Panzer IVs are really strong at taking out like T-34s in particular, and also enemy German tanks up to kind of Stugs. Really, they can take out Stugs quite well. So having a 2-star Panzer IV is probably beneficial, and I think in A phase you're not really going to use many tanks. So if we went with 1-star, yeah, you get an extra 2 tanks. But remember, that's 70 points a tick. And I don't know whether I mentioned, but I've selected balanced income for this deck. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So I think although you go down to 2 cards, having the 2 stars is better. Now, you could perhaps drop this Panzer IV Führer card and take them at 1-star to give you an extra card, but I still think it's better to take them in this format for a new player. The reason those Panzer IV Führer card is there is to provide you with the leaders that you don't have in the leader tab. So get them close to your troops, or close enough, but obviously not in knife fighting range with Panzerschrecks or enemy bazookas. You don't want to lose these to infantry AT, but you do want to have them fairly close to, you know, your infantry, so they can provide some leader veterancy. I've also got the Tiger E Führer in there, again as a leader tank, but also as a heavy tank. So if you need a heavy tank, you've got the Tiger E Führer in there. And then finally in A phase, I've got the Panther G. This is specifically chosen for the 250mm of penetration. So if you don't need this 250mm of penetration, I would choose the Tiger instead of the Panther. But if you're coming up against an IS-2 division, then you can bring out the Panther. You've got a Panther in A phase. Or if you're up against another German armor division that are bringing out Tigers, you've got the Panther in A phase that can do the job. So that's why that single Panther is there. It's not really for you to use in A phase unless you absolutely need it. B phase, we've got the 2-star Panzer IV. Again, I think with the numbers, 5 should be enough tanks in B phase for you to use. That's quite a lot of income just on those tanks. So I don't want you to spam out 7 or 10 tanks and lose them all. I'd rather you use 5 of them, have them at 2-star veterancy, then perform a bit better, and you micro them a little bit harder, a little bit, you know, more carefully. So that's why I've chosen just the 2-star Panzer IV H's. And then we've got the card of Panther Gs in B phase as well. Again, this is really to provide you with the heavy tank and especially the APCR. You could swap this for a card of Tigers in B phase. Most players kind of have a preference, Tiger versus Panther. I think in this instance, I'm giving you the Panther Gs because of the APCR shells, so that if you come up against IS-2 divisions, you can hit them at pretty long range, and you should be able to penetrate with those APCRs. Whereas with the Tigers, although you can hit at 2,000 meters, you're not really going to be able to penetrate as easily as with the Panthers. So that's why I've chosen the Panthers over the Tigers. You might make a different choice. C phase, we've got the Panzer IV H's, and I've decided to take them down to 1 star of veterancy to give you the extra 4 tanks in C phase. I think you do need a few more tanks in C phase because some games, they can last a very long time, so you just get extra tanks. And then I've got the Panther G Furas in C phase, 1 star. The reason I've chosen the Panther G Furas and not just a standard card of Panthers, if I was to choose a standard card of the Panthers, I'd probably choose it at 0 vet rather than 1 vet. Well, it's because I don't really think you need more than 2 Panthers in C phase. I mean, in total in your deck, you've got 6 Panthers. And if you're losing 6 Panthers, that's not fantastic. Plus a Tiger as well. You know, you're maybe not going to be winning the game anyway. So I think it's unlikely you're going to need more than 2 Panthers in C phase. And remember, you're not necessarily always going to use your A and B phase Panthers. You're only really using those if you need to take out an enemy heavy tank like an IS-2, like a Tiger, like a Panther, like a King Tiger. You're only using those tanks if they're absolutely necessary. So you may well not get through the A phase card and the B phase card. Once you get to C phase, you may have all of those remaining. That's 6 Panther Gs when you think about it. So that's why I've made that decision. You might think a little bit differently, and I think this deck in particular is a bit more open to your own kind of feelings on how you use the tanks, especially. The tank tab can be customized to how you feel about it. This is what I think would be good for a new or beginner player to just start off with using the division. Once you've played a few games with them, you may well switch things around. Heading into the support tab, we've got the Flamers. I spoke about them before. It's always, I mean, you're pretty much always going to pick them in your decks. Then we've got the card of MG42s. I've chosen them in the Horsch 108 because that's the fastest transport you can get them in. We've got the B phase card of Opel Blitz munitions, no change from normal. And then I selected this B phase card of Grill. Now, having played a few games, I actually would change this to an A phase card. I think it's better to have the A phase, the Grill available early than having more of them in B phase. So that's a change I would make to this deck, having played with it a few games. So I'll make this change for you now, so you'll see the final deck as it is. I wanted to show you though where I started off and what change I made. The one kind of feeling that I have about this deck is I'd like to select a commander in. I think it's worth having a commander, especially to upvet your AA in particular. But I just couldn't really fit it in to the deck how I felt to use it. So in the end, it isn't in there, but I think you could definitely use a commander. You could perhaps take the Grill out. You could perhaps take one of the Recon cards out, but you'd have to take another card out as well. So perhaps a Recon card, you might take a tank card out. You know, might take the Recon card and a artillery card out. But yeah, those 3 points, it was just too hard for me to get that commander in. So you might play with the deck and find that you do want to take these 2 cards out and swap them to a 1-star Panzer 4H. But, you know, you still need another point. So then you're going to have to take a Recon card out as well. So that's why I kind of struggled to get the commander into this deck. I'll just reset it to how it is. I think if you are going to adjust cards, removing a card somewhere in the tank tab might be the thing to do. I would say a single Tiger is not, you know, necessarily the most card efficient choice that you could make, but actually when it comes to the game that I'm going to show you, the Tiger did do a decent job and killed a few tanks. That it did exactly the job that I've got it in here to do, to be a big A-phase heavy tank that doesn't cost an arm and a leg like a Panther G would. You might sacrifice the Panther G in A-phase and rely on your other big AT equipment. When I say big AT equipment, I mean big penetrating AT equipment like the Panzer Shrek, like the Pak 36 that we'll come on to. But I just feel like as a new player, it might be better to have that Panther G to rely on if you need it. It's there if you need it. But once you become a bit more experienced, you might drop that Panther G card, you might drop the 250-10, and you might put a commander in the deck to up-vet the AA. Because it did get a bit hairy in the game that I'm going to show you in terms of the AA that I had. And I did actually up-vet them with a battery Fuhrer in B-phase, and that certainly helped. Okay, hopefully I didn't labour that point too much. Onto the anti-tank tab, we got the Panzer Shrek. These are a must for this division. You need some extra AT equipment to help out your infantry, because you don't get a hell of a lot of Panzergrens with the Panzerfausts in this deck. B-phase is not so bad, but A-phase, just 6 of them. When you've got the entire map to cover, you do want some infantry AT. So I selected the Panzer Shrek. You could be a little bit more careful and select the Panzer Vernichtungen because they have more men. So you, as a new player, you probably have an easier time microing them. But the downside is they come in the horse transport, which is 90 speed. Which actually is as fast as the BMW. So yeah, there was a change. The BMW used to be faster than the horse transport, so I'm forgetting that. Therefore, I think you could actually make the change here and bring in a Panzer Vernichtungen instead of the Panzer Shrek. The downside for that is you lose 1 Panzer Shrek unit, but the upside is, as a beginner player, you know, the Panzer Vernichtungen squad is slightly stronger, so if you miss micro it a little bit, you're not necessarily going to lose your Panzer Shreks. So I'm actually going to make that change in this deck. It is slightly more expensive a game, but like I say, as a new player, I think it's better to have a bit stronger squad, so you're less likely to lose them. So I'm going to make that change. Pak 36-37, I think I spoke about this the other day, but the reason this is in the deck is for these heat shells, or they were actually rockets that they put on the front of the AT gun, I believe. Now, they only operate at 750 meters, but the penetration is huge, 180 millimeters. That's basically taken out any tank, I think, apart from a King Tiger. So this will do the job against anything but a King Tiger, and then the King Tigers will go down to the Panzer Shrek or the Panther Gs. But the Pak 36-37 is useful to have. They're fast, they can get to the front. You get 6 of them. You can fall back on the AP shell with 1,000 meters if you're getting spammed by kind of half tracks. But I really recommend to try and keep these for the heat shells. If you can get rid of an enemy Tiger or a Panther or even a normal tank with these, you get rid of any tank generally. I mean, the light tanks maybe not, but you're being efficient with your resources because this only costs 30 points. It's so cheap. Even a Marder 3M kill, look, you're making money. You know, you kill a Panzer 4H and you've more than doubled what you paid. you manage to snipe a Panther G or a Tiger E, and look how efficient that is. So that's why that unit's in there in the deck. But it is quite hard to micro. You have to be careful with the unit. You have to get used to it. So if you're a new player and you're struggling with this unit, you could take it out. You could actually put in more Panzer Shreks instead of the Pak 36-37s. You do lose a little bit of range, but you might find that easier as a new player. I think it's still worthwhile to start using the unit with, because it is very powerful. Then we've got the Marder 3M. This is really in here again for the APCR shell, and because it's cheap. An A phase, you're on balanced income, you don't get a lot of income, so these can supplement your tanks. You get some cheaper armored vehicles. You want to use these at the long range, 1,500 meters or even 1,750 meters, because the standard AP shell is actually really good on this tank. You don't have to use the APCR shell. The 145 millimeters of penetration will actually do a really good job against things like Panzer 4Hs, because they've only got 75 mils of frontal armor. But yeah, these are a powerful unit, and I definitely think they're a worthwhile choice in the deck. And then finally, we get the Pak 40. So I've selected the card in A phase and in B phase. I feel like you don't need a C phase card here. You've got 8 in total with the A and the B phase. So I think selecting it in C phase is kind of overkill. This is your main anti-tank infantry gun. The Pak 36-37mm isn't your main anti-tank infantry gun. Remember, that's there for the heat shells. That's there to ambush the heavy tanks. Your main anti-tank gun is the Pak 40. You only get 3 of them in A phase, so you've got to be a little bit careful with them. Put them into the best places that you can. And then in B phase, you get 5 of them. And the Pak 40 is a fantastic gun, so use them all. Use them all. Okay, so that's the anti-tank deck done. And then we get the anti-air tab. We've got the Flak 43-37mm. It's probably the joint second best AA piece in the game with the Flak 41-88. I think actually the Flak 41's probably better now because of the range changes. But the flak filling is the best, and the flak filling on foot, and then I would say the Flak 41 and then the Flak 43-37mm. The thing about the Flak 43 is it's much cheaper than your other options. So in A phase, if you desperately need an anti-air gun, then the Flak 43 is the one you're going to choose. And if you do get this to 1-star veterancy, it's going to be much better. You could select this at 1 star, and then you put a leader there that gets it to 2 stars, and these are amazing. But I feel like as a newer player, you're probably going to be better off having 3 of these available in your deck rather than just 2, and relying on the Flak 41s. The Flak 41s are fantastic guns. I'm not going to speak too heavily about these in all of the games, that all of the decks that I go through. But yeah, I mean, I think as a new player, you should kind of understand how the Flak 41s work. And they're iconic World War II units. So yeah, hopefully you should get it. If you've got queries, put them down in the comments, but we'll keep this a little bit shorter. Onto the artillery tab. I think this is a pretty good artillery tab for a new player. The battery fuelers we've spoken about, they come in the half tracks so that you don't lose your leaders in transports. That's kind of the main reason that I've given you them in the half tracks. They are a bit more expensive, but yeah, much better to pay 10 points and not lose your infantry leader in the transport as a new player than, you know, lose your 40-point unit. I've selected the mortar half track to help you out in A phase because the off map comes in B phase, so you do want something in A phase, and I think in the game that I've got to show you, I do use it in A phase. In fact, I believe I bring 2 of these out, 1 in A phase and then 1 in B phase. I also did use this in other games as well, so I definitely think it's beneficial to have a mortar half track in an A phase. Now, you might wonder why I've selected the 250/7 instead of the 251/2. The main benefit to the 251/2 is the ammunition is almost twice as much. But in terms of the actual mortar piece, it's no different. So it doesn't perform any different whatsoever. It's just got some less ammo. And I feel like for a new player, it's better to have a cheaper mortar half track. to save some cash that you can use on an infantry unit or something else than to have the extra ammunition. I think if you're a more experienced player, you're probably going to buy the 251/2. But I think as a newer player, your micro isn't going to be fantastic as well. So you might not necessarily use as much ammunition as an experienced player might use. And you do have the Opal Blitz munitions in the supply tab or in the support tab to kind of refill these. So yeah, I chose this because it's cheaper, and I think as a new player, if you do need a mortar unit, you can select it, you can use the mortar unit, it will do the job, but you're not paying quite as much, which I think is probably going to be better for you. In B phase, I selected the off map. You could have it in A phase to limit any early push, but I think it's better to have 2 of these off maps. So I've selected them in B phase rather than A phase to give you that extra one. It's a really good off map, 172.5 millimeters. Yeah, it does some devastating damage, and I use both of them in my game that I'm going to show you in a bit. And also, I think well, all the other games that lasted long enough for me to get into B phase, I pretty much called my off maps in straight away. So this is a really important unit. I think it's important to have it in B phase rather than C phase, because if you are going to get pushed by a Vanguard or a Maverick deck, you need it before C phase. You can just about get away with holding off to the 10-minute mark and calling the first one in on the first tick in B phase, so I think B phase is okay for it. And then the final unit I've selected is the SK18 100mm. These are really good for counter battery. That's kind of why I've selected it, to counter the enemy's artillery. And again, I do use it for that job. You could make other choices, perhaps a Hummel. Well, I think the SK18 is better than the Hummel at the counter battery role. It's not quite as good at the actual artillery role, but it is better at counter battery, so that's kind of why I've selected it. And you can bring it in with the multi and muns for the extra supplies, and because you're going to select these in C phase, you actually have the income to bring it in with the extra supplies, you know, on a tick of income. So that's why I've done that, so that it can counter battery all day long. Finally, the air tab. I selected the Focke-Wulf 190AA as your dedicated fighter. I've spoken about fighters before. I think as a new player, it's always important to have a dedicated fighter in your deck. So that's why I've given you one, and I've given you one in A phase so that you can react. If you're getting destroyed in the air and you desperately need something, you've got a fighter at your disposal. You could perhaps look at selecting the fighter bomber in A phase, but you only get one of them compared to the 2 fighters. And you're only going to get 2 cards in this deck really, because the third card at 3 points is quite expensive, and you're really only going to select another Focke-Wulf 190AA. You might select the ME410 as a ground strafer, but it's kind of unlikely, and I think that's more as a specialist plane for more experienced players that like to use that plane. So I've selected the Focke-Wulf 190AA as your dedicated fighter, and the Focke-Wulf 190G8 as your fighter bomber in B phase. It has one 250 kilogram bomb and 4 50 kilogram bombs. It can definitely do the job at taking out infantry guns, machine guns, AT guns. It's pretty decently fast. It can also act as a fighter. It can do head-ons pretty well with the 220mm and the 213mm. And obviously the Focke-Wulf 190AA, it's one of the best fighters in the game for head-on attacks with the 420mm and the 213mm. That is just one of the best fighters in the game. So there we have it. There is the deck. You're going to see some footage of me playing the deck. Overall thoughts, this is the final deck that I've prepared. I did change the grill from what I originally had it. And actually, I brought in the Panzer Phoenixes instead of the Panzerschreck. I'm not saying you have to use this deck as it is, but what I am saying is, if you need a deck, you don't have a deck, or you just don't know where to start with building a 5th Panzer deck, then this is a base for you to do that, and you can make some tweaks as you play it. So we are playing 5th Panzer on balanced income. We're up against Fallschirmpanzer Hermann Göring on balanced income.
Bereit, Panzer zu knacken. Falls der Tank getroffen wird, sind wir hinüber. Kampfbereit. Lasst sie verbrennen. Überprüft Waffen und Munition. Zweiter Zug, vorwärts, Mark. Wir brauchen eine gute Feuerstellung. Wir haben Ausfälle in unseren Reihen. Hauptmann. Das hat mich erwischt. Wir werden sie ausführen und vernichten. Abschlussbereit, Herr Kommandant. Tanks vorne, sind vor Richtung Gereinigt. Taxi, dort müssen wir hin. Zweiter Zug einsatzbereit. Sanitäter! Los, Jungs, Augen auf.
Okay, we're gonna need some tanks.
Fahrzeug bereit, Hauptmann. An dieser Position müssen wir raus. Die Befehle sind eindeutig. Bewegung! Motor läuft. Panzerkompanie bereit. Feuer und Bewegung! Keine Vorkommnisse. Wir können nicht mehr. Wir wurden getroffen. Wie lautet Ihr Befehl, Hauptmann? Taxi, dort.
I'm getting some lag. That's not good.
Verlust erlitten. Fertig machen, Männer. Stille. Angriffsformation. Sammeln.
Okay, I think I'm gonna bring in some arty.
Sanitäter! Wir sind bereit, Herr Kommandant. Unten bleiben! Wachsam bleiben. Jawohl, Hauptmann.
There's a lot of vehicles
Panzerkompanie bereit.
right now in there.
Infanterie bereit. Wir haben Ausfälle in unseren Reihen.
He barely has anything along the sides.
Herr Hauptmann. Guter Schuss. Wir erwarten Ihre Befehle. Artillerie zu Diensten.
Panzer 4 went down. Big shame. Don't want to lose half tracks as well.
Langsam zur Stelle. Die Gruppe erwartet Ihre Befehle. Sanitäter! Zur Stelle, Hauptmann.
Okay, we're gonna need some anti-air.
Infanterie bereit.
Is he going after these two?
Gehen aus an Hans. Guter Schuss. Fahrzeug bereit, Hauptmann.
Ugh.
Ja, bereit. Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt. Geschütz bereit, Herr Kommandant.
Bring in some Panzer Shreks. We're gonna need some tanks in here soon as well.
Spähtrupp bereit. Rot 6.
Hopefully this is not recording the, not affecting the recording too much.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle? Verlegen so schnell wie möglich. Motor läuft. Angriff! Ja, Hauptmann. Das hat mich erwischt. Hat jemand ein Taxi bestellt?
Ah, that's a shame. We lost a few of them.
Höre Sie klar und deutlich.
Oh, bring in the Tiger. Okay, so we have got that side and we have got this side, so we're doing okay, but we do need to hold out in the centre.
Höre Sie gut. Wie lauten Ihre Befehle? Keine Vorkommnisse. Wir werden sie aufspüren und vernichten. Hauptmann! Sie den Abstand haben. Wie lauten Ihre Befehle? Den zeigen wir es, Männer. Wir sind leer geschossen. Sie den Abstand haben. Los geht's, Männer. Stehen bereit. 10 Grad nach oben. Feuer.
Okay, we do need anti-air.
Was sind Ihre Befehle?
Because we're getting away with the air right now.
Rot 6, kampfbereit.
We're getting counter battery.
Wird so ausgeführt, Kommandant.
Got to be careful how we use this Tiger.
Wir sind getroffen. Hoch auf dem gelben Wagen.
We're nearly out of infantry. Trying to unload these guys.
Überprüft Waffen und Munition. Achtung! An dieser Position müssen wir raus. Ich werde Ihnen zeigen, wie ein preußischer Offizier kämpfen kann. Den Abstand haben. Ich höre, Herr Hauptmann. Ruhe, herhören. Die Gruppe erwartet Ihre Befehle. Lass mich raus! Ich will nach Hause! Lass
I think What are you doing?
Koordinaten.
My mortar's on the front line right now. Let's try and get him out of there. Oh, no. That's a mortar down. Great.
Der Sieg liebt die Sorgfalt. Männer, hier nach.
I can't really take my Tiger down there.
Hoch auf dem gelben Wagen. Sanitäter! Nehmt alles unter Beschuss.
Let's bring in another mortar.
Wollen Sie mitfahren? Sie den Abstand halten. Weihnachten ist der Krieg vorbei. Voll ins Schwarze!
We're just trying to get rid of whatever we can. Hopefully this is not stuttering too much as well.
Wir erwarten Ihre Befehle. Wir haben keine Chance mehr.
Let's bring in the Marders. They're cheap.
Jawohl, Herr Kommandant. Voll auf die 12.
Don't really have the anti-air to protect that, so it's going down. Kind of lucky that he didn't go after the Tiger, although I think my anti-air is enough to protect the Tiger. I do need to... Okay, spoke too soon. I think he lost sight.
Der ist hinüber.
So we definitely need more anti-air.
Artillerie zu Diensten. 200 Anrecht. 6 Schuss. Ende. Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt.
I could do with bringing a leader in into that position to upvet the anti-air as well. At the moment we're doing okay because we're capturing the side flags.
Jawohl, Kommandant. Was können wir für Sie tun? In Bewegung, macht euch schussbereit.
Tank in the middle.
Bajonette aufpflanzen.
Dangerous using that Tiger so close, but it looks like his infantry is staying back.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle? Bereit für den Transport. Wir sind hier ein leichtes Ziel.
Move the RT.
Bereit, Panzer zu knacken. Fertig machen zum Sprung, wir greifen gleich. Was sollen wir ohne Munition machen?
Try and get the marauders around.
Wir haben Ausfälle in unseren Reihen. Jawohl, Kommandant.
Oh man, they just got destroyed.
Wir brauchen eine gute Feuerstellung. Wir haben Verluste erlitten. Wie ist die Lage? Wir werden sie aufspüren und vernichten. Haben Sie Zielkoordinaten, Hauptmann?
Got to be careful I'm not clicking that marder.
Jawohl. Die Befehle sind eindeutig. Bewegung.
Oh, that could be off map. Crap, it is off map.
Hauptmann. So schnell wie der Wind.
At least we shot it down.
Fahrzeug einsatzbereit.
Marauders can kill the Panzer 4H. Clearly not doing the job that time.
Lass mich raus! Ich will nach Hause! Lass mich sehen! Der Sieg liebt die Sorgfalt.
Come on, get the kill.
Gute Arbeit.
Okay, we got the 3M. Oh, luckily we avoided the... Keep doing that. He's trying to come in from the side where my AA isn't.
Halte Ausschau nach feindlichen Flugzeugen. Ich habe hier das Kommando. So viel, Kommandant. Die Befehle sind eindeutig. Bewegung.
Oh, we managed to snapshot something there.
Feuer und Bewegung. Bereit für den Transport. Den hat's erwischt. Der Fußbus fällt immer. Einsatzbereit. Ah, es hat mich erwischt.
Tiger's going down. Oh, we might have just got... No, we didn't get away with that.
Wie lauten die Befehle, Hauptmann? Jawohl, Hauptmann.
Yeah, it looks like he's taken back the left. Yeah, which worries me if he's going to push over the left.
Hast jemand ein Taxi bestellt? Am Schützenrodel aufgehen, mir nach! Zur Stelle, Hauptmann! Packt zusammen und dann los! Wir haben Ausfall!
Oh, this is...
Stehen bereit!
So,
Langsam zur Stelle! Lass mich raus! Ich will da raus!
we need another fairly big tank.
Volltreffer! Sie ist zerstört!
to actually bring in an 88.
Haben Sie Zielkoordinaten aufgefahren?
Yeah, we killed that one, which is good. I think we're making good kills here. We just need to continue. We should get the 3M kill 2 on 1. We might lose a tank here, though. Yeah, there's a second one coming across. And a 4G there. Love to get that Panzer Shrek over. Okay, we're slowly getting this.
Jawohl, Herr Kommandant. Wie wäre es mit Trommelfeuer?
Smoke that.
Infanterie bereit.
I hesitate to bring in a Panther, but I would like something stronger in the centre.
Ziel zerschlagen. Bereiter Aufwand. Was sind Ihre Befehle? Vorwärts, aber schließt die Flanken. Panzerkompanie bereit. Wir sind leer geschossen. Feind gesichtet. Seid auf der Hut. Stets zu Diensten. Es hat mich erwischt.
Okay. We'll be able to beat the Flammenwerfer. The Panzer Shrek went down.
Bleibt in Deckung. Wie ist die Lage?
I can't believe my guy got surrendered there. What a shame.
Langsam zur Stelle. Verstanden, Ende.
We need off map. We need off map. Trying to arty my AA lot. I mean, it's a good move.
Zu Ihren Diensten, Herr Kommandant. Wir stehen unter Beschuss.
We need off map.
Bereit für den Transport.
Auf erkannten Feind Feuererlaubnis.
Oh, he's got a 1311.
Den Feind hat's zerlegt.
Ruhe, herhören. Wir sind
Got some kills there.
ohne Tritt. Marsch. Warten auf Feuerkoordinaten. Verlegen so schnell wie möglich. Verstanden. Gute Arbeit, Lichtschütze. Ich höre. Wie Feind.
Yeah, we got a Panther G like right here.
Es hat mich erwischt.
That. Okay.
Die Gruppe erwartet Ihre Befehle. Volltreffer. Ziel zerstört.
Off map's nearly in now though.
Beeilung, Männer. Bleibt in Deckung. Artilleriebeobachter ist unterwegs.
Vorwärts, Männer, aber seid schussbereit.
Jagdpanzer bereit. Infanterie bereit. Bleibt in Deckung. Allzeit bereit, Kommandant. Her mit dem Feldstecher. Der hat uns erwischt. Voll im Schwarze.
Okay, Marder gets the kill.
Bereit.
he's hitting the flak 41 there.
Feindgesichtet, Gefechtsbereitschaft herstellen. Jawohl, Kommandant. Stellung halten, Soldaten. Ruhe, herhören.
Wir stehen unter Beschuss! Unten bleiben!
I'm going to try and punch through on this off map. Hopefully the troops are going to get there in time.
Umstürmt oder schneit.
Geschütz wird bewegt, Herr Kommandant.
Die Gruppe erwartet Ihre Befehle. Und verlangsamt.
Jawohl.
Taxi, dort müssen wir hin. Rot 1 an alle. Funküberprüfung. Kommen. Rückwärts, Marsch. Front zum Feind. Vorgeschobener Beobachter bereit.
I'm going to put another off map down there.
Feuer. Wie lautet der Plan? Scheiße, das war knapp. Jawohl. Zielpunkt erreicht. Rausgelaufen.
Something just died there, and I think it was my Panther, which is bad news.
Raus hier! Rennt zu! Sanitäter!
Taxi bereit. Die Gruppe erwartet Ihre Befehle. Aufgepasst, Männer, es geht los. Wir rufen es aus. Her mit dem Feldstecher. Koordinaten erhalten. Feuer nach eigenem Ermessen.
Hauptmann, Feuerbereitschaft hergestellt.
Ich höre. Ich höre. Vorwärts, Männer, aber schießt erst auf mein Kommando. Vorgeschobener Beobachter bereit. Höchstgeschwindigkeit. Wachsam bleiben. Bereiter Hauptmann. Zweiter Zug. Vorwärts, Marsch. Speer bereit. Wir fahren so schnell es geht.
Sanitäter!
Ich höre.
Ah, es hat mich erwischt!
Okay, hopefully we time that well.
Klar und deutlich. Panzer zur Stelle. Spähtrupp bereit. Wie ist die Lage?
Sanitäter!
Ich hab ihn. Ruhe, herhören. Haha, das hat gesessen. Jawohl, Herr Kommandant.
Ein Abschussring mehr! Unten bleiben!
Let's get the second off map.
Sanitäter!
He's got a lot of tanks in here now. Yeah, you see he's just battering. Oh my days, that did not go well for me.
Lauten Ihre Befehle.
That did not go well at all.
An dieser Position.
Yeah, that didn't go well. I should have had my leaders in there. Yeah, that was poor. Poor on my behalf.
Soterzug einsatzbereit. Bitte, nicht schießen! Beeilung, Männer! Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt!
Okay, so how do we break the deadlock, really, is the question.
Es hat mich erwischt!
We either just go through as many tanks as we can.
Es hat mich erwischt!
I think we need to get artillery out.
Feuer bereit. Nutzt die Straßen, wir brauchen mehr Geschwindigkeit.
Whoa. Shoot. Ah, funny that.
Zielkoordinaten, Kommandant. Motor an und dann los. Haben Sie Zielkoordinaten, Hauptmann? Wird so ausgeführt, Kommandant. Wie ist die Lage? Wir wurden getroffen. Vorgeschobene Beobachter bereit. Gute Arbeit, Schütze. Ihre Befehle, Kommandant? Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt. Marsch, aber achten Sie auf unsere Flanken. Scheiße, das war knapp. Versorger bereit.
Okay, we'll put one on counter battery. And then we'll get the other used. I think both of my tanks went down there. Okay, very worrying.
Es hat mich erwischt. Verstanden. Ausrücken. Jawohl, Kommandant.
Okay, he's pushing through and I don't have anything to defend with right now.
Wir brauchen eine gute Feuerstellung. Ziel vernichtet.
Just gotta hope.
Bereit für die Jagd.
We can get the kills.
Und dann los.
Let's get some Panzer in there.
Gut gemacht, Schütze. Keine Vorkommnisse. Taxi, dort müssen wir hin. Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt. Verstanden.
Mortars are not things you want to be using at close range.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle? Feind gesichtet. Seid auf der Hut.
Literally have nothing to get this tank right.
Flieger sind Sieger. Wir stehen unter Beschuss! Vorgeschobener Beobachter bereit. 300 zulegen. Vorrufen. Feuer! Verdammt! Es hat mich erwischt! Verstanden. Auf dem Weg. Wie lauten die Befehle, Hauptmann? Zieh den Arsch an, Hans! Flieger sind Sieger. Es hat mich erwischt! Klasse! Ziel
Okay.
Es hat mich erwischt! Der ist hinüber. Was sollen wir ohne Munition machen? Bereit für den Transport.
Okay, I've got 2 more on the off maps. It's firing, so I can't use that.
Wir können nicht mehr. Ausfälle in unseren Reihen. Haben Sie Zielkoordinaten, Hauptmann? Unten bleiben! 10 Grad nach oben. Feuer.
Steht zu Diensten.
Bajonette aufpflanzen.
Geschützbereiter Kommandant.
Bring out a big heavy tank. We'll off map there. We'll get these guys ready for a charge.
Drückt das Pedal aufs Blech, Fahrer.
Einsatzbereit. Zieh den Arsch an Hand. Infanterie bereit.
Wie wäre es mit Trommelfeuer?
Smoke that area. We could have done with a recon vehicle in here, but it is what it is.
Mir nah. Überprüft Waffen und Munition. Feind gesichtet. Seid auf der Hut.
Ja, Kommandant. Zur Stelle, Hauptmann.
Abbrechen. 6 Schuss. Ende.
Wie lautet der Plan?
Wir müssen hier raus!
Der Treibstoff reicht gerade noch für den Rückflug.
Tiger.
Höre Sie klar und deutlich.
I need my Panther port.
Zum Schützenrodel aufgehen. Mir nach. Weder Freund noch Feind. Nur lohnende Ziele.
Vorgeschobener Beobachter bereit. Ausdrücken, aber Vorsicht.
Stehen bereit.
Volle Geschwindigkeit. Motor läuft.
Wir haben keine Geschosse mehr.
Okay. Let's bring out the Panther Führer. Hopefully that will help out. It's going to be a close range battle against that Tiger.
Front zum Feind.
Let's get the arty on it.
Es hat mich erwischt.
Wie wäre es mit Trommelfeuer? Ausdrücken, aber Vorsicht.
Zieh den Arsch an Hand.
Speer bereit.
Let's get rid of that as well.
Beeilung.
Somehow.
Vorwärts, aber sei wachsam.
Zieh den Arsch an Hand.
Wollen Sie mitfahren? Taxi, dort müssen wir hin.
Es hat mich erwischt.
Bring another Panther out. We need something to take out that Pack 40.
Speer bereit.
Sanitäter!
Oh, we have the perfect thing to take out the Pack 40.
Schuss, Ende.
Feind gesichtet. Seid auf der Hut.
Angriff!
Zieh den Arsch an Hand. Überprüft Waffen und Munition.
Jawohl, wird gemacht.
Sturm Tiger.
Es hat mich erwischt.
Oh, I'm going to lose the Panzer Shrek. Oh, we got the Sturm Tiger. Oh, cannot believe it. Don't know whether I got the Tiger kill there as well.
Marsch! Aber achten Sie auf unsere Flanken! Artillerie zu Diensten! Holen Sie das Fernglas raus!
We need more infantry. Oh, there's a Tiger. Tiger's mowing me down right now. Let's not commit Panzer IVs where we don't want to need them.
Ich höre, Hauptmann.
Jawohl, Herr Hauptmann! Beeilung, Männer!
Jawohl, Kommandant.
Panzer vorwärts! Marsch!
Alle Mann zurück!
Oh,
Lass mich raus!
more artillery.
Geschütz einsatzbereit. Der brennt lichterloh. Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt. Ein Abschussring mehr.
Es ist mir eine Ehre, die Männer anzuführen.
We definitely need more infantry in here.
Wie wäre es mit Trommelfeuer? 10 Grad nach oben. Feuer!
Lass es nicht mehr auffallen. Bereit, Panzer zu knacken.
Volltreffer! Ziel zerstört! Ich werde meine Männer zum Sieg.
Why did they not go for the Tiger?
Haben Sie Zielkoordinaten, Hauptmann?
Backed away.
Hat einen erwischt.
Okay, he's got a 1311.
Kommandant,
Come on, give me the unit.
braucht jemand Munition?
Artillerie zu Diensten. Bajonette aufpflanzen. Bereit, Herr Hauptmann.
An dieser Position müssen wir raus.
Okay, we've got quite a few tanks here that we're not really using.
Taxi bereit.
Feuer und Bewegung.
Hat jemand ein Taxi bestellt?
Vorwärts, Männer, aber schieße erst auf mein Kommando.
Zu Befehl.
We're gonna need some anti-air.
Verstanden. Ende. Rot 6. Kampfbereit. Wir müssen uns auf den Staub machen.
Down goes the Tiger.
Befehle.
Down goes the Panther. Let's try and push them through. We are definitely going to need anti-air. And the Focke-Wulf out immediately.
Vorwärts, Männer, aber schieße erst auf mein Kommando. Wir brauchen eine gute Feuerstellung.
Ändere Kurs. Komme Waffen.
Okay, this might be
Wir können nicht mehr.
a push to make.
Ja, Hauptmann. Zieh den Abstand an.
Ziel zerschlagen.
Mehr Feuerkraft gefällig? Es hat mich erwischt.
Come on, get out. Oh, a lot of them are going down to Faust. Try and get them out. Okay, there is a Tiger in there.
Verdammt, hier ist ganz schön was los.
Verstanden. Ende. Ziel vernichtet.
Scheiße, verteidigender Wind.
Okay, one of them down. I think this is a good move now.
Flugzeug bereit. Verstanden. Bin unterwegs.
We're getting away
Fertig machen, Männer.
with the anti-air front, unless all of his stuff is dead.
Geschützbereiter, Kommandant.
Vorwärts, Männer, aber schießt erst auf mein Kommando.
We need to get rid of that Tiger.
Überprüft Waffen und Munition. Ich werde meine Männer zum Ziel führen. Die Befehle sind eindeutig. Bewegung.
Der Sieg liegt in Notfall. Feind gesichtet.
Vorsichtig, Männer, der Feind ist in der Nähe.
Voll auf die 12. Der Motorführerstein erwischt.
Weihnachten ist der Krieg vorbei.
Okay, we're making moves now.
Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt.
Zur Stelle.
Vorsichtig, Männer, der Feind ist in der Nähe.
Ooh. Yeah, I think that's the Tiger down.
Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt.
Bin auf Empfang. Fuchs 1, greif an.
Okay, don't want to attack a black gun.
Erwischt. Habe verstanden. Ende. Ob stürmt oder schneit. Ziel zerstört. Wie lauten Ihre Befehle?
Okay, we hit the mortars.
Wir sind hier ein leichtes Ziel.
Fläche ab. Ende. Das wird was für die Wochenshow.
Oh my day. I think we've pushed through now.
Feuer bereit.
Stick you on counter battery.
Hier oben. Flammenwerfer bereit. Wir geben unser Bestes.
Ah, there's a surrender. Oh my day. 42 minutes, 5 seconds. Oh, 5,700 kills to 4,345 losses. I'm sorry, commentary on that wasn't fantastic. I was concentrating like hell. Benjamin gave me a really good game. And I've got to say, prior to this, I sustained several losses. Although some of them were to some very big names. I lost to Amber T and El Bowser. There were some other losses in there as well that I didn't recognize the name. So this deck, I didn't find this easy. So by any means, although you're seeing me winning with the game, that was because I was really stressed out in the games that I lost before this. So the commentary was really, really, really bad. Whereas the commentary in this, well, let's just say I don't really want to play again right now and film a new replay to show the deck. So you're just going to have to put up with what you've seen. In terms of this map, I mean, it's not really a map for 5th Panzer. You don't really want to be fighting with 5th Panzer on this map. So if you've got any choice, you wouldn't really take it. But with quick play and rank, you don't really have that choice. That's where the Steel Division League comes in, where you know the map ahead of time. so you can pick a division that works on the map. Personally, I wouldn't ever consider picking 5th Panzer on this map. I just don't really feel like it's that usable. Having said that, the off maps came in really handy. So having those off maps on an armoured division really did help. And it wasn't until I actually mistakenly floated a few points and then ordered in some Panther Gs that I kind of managed to overwhelm my opponent. I think also shooting down the Ju-87s fairly early on when he was going after the lighter tanks like the Panzer IVs and the Marders probably helped me, because there's no way he had those units left, otherwise he would have used them at the end to destroy that little platoon of tanks that I attacked with around the left side of the town. I mean, the Pak 36-37mm is a great unit. You just have to get a little bit more experience with it. You have to be aware of how you're using the unit. So be wary of that. The Marder 3Ms, again, they're fantastic units, but you need to make sure you engage at the right range. Today, the range engagements wasn't on either of our side, so everything had to be at pretty close range. Whereas usually you wouldn't when your Marders at close range. Like I say, the off maps really, really helped me out. Looks like this Pioneer got quite a few kills. Panzer Shreks as well. Oh, the Sturm Tiger kill. I forgot about that one. I'm kind of surprised the Panzer Shrek got a shot off against that Sturm Tiger. I didn't think he was going to manage it. I thought he was going to get shot down before it. But the Sturm Tiger is quite a hard unit to micro. You have to be aware of its problems. It's direct fire only. So if you put a ground attack on somewhere that it doesn't have line of sight, then it will just drive off. So sometimes you can lose track of your Sturm Tiger, a bit like I lost track of my mortars at some points. What else can I really say? I mean, the Panther G clearly did the job here. I was floating some points to bring those in. I mean, close range again, it's not really where you want to use the Panther Gs. The SK-18s, I think that was important to buy them when I did. Clearly, he's playing with the same unit. They are fantastic at counter battery. So that's what you want to use them for. I brought one out for counter battery, and then another to help arty the town, and then finally another one to help with that. But if you look, no other kills, just those single kills. The Tiger early on actually helped as well, to be fair. And in a closer range engagement, I would have preferred Tigers to Panthers. But this deck I've set up with more Panthers than Tigers. It might be something you want to change. These decks aren't restricted. I'm not saying you have to play with these decks. I'm not even saying they're amazing decks. But if you need a 5th Panzer deck, you literally don't know where to start. You want one to play against the AI, to play against friends, or to just start in your journey in multiplayer, then that's what this deck is here for. You heard me just talk about the losses that I had before this. I had several losses. I think at least 4 losses before this game. 2 of them were against really good players, so, you know, that's to be expected. That's probably not necessarily the division, but more my skill level. You know, the games against Bowser and Amber T. But yeah, I'm not necessarily saying this is fantastic. You're going to win every game with this deck, but it's a usable deck, and that's what these videos are all about. Okay, just some very final thoughts as we end the video. 5th Panzer, I think it's a decent deck for beginners. It is a base game division, so as a new player, if you're just picking up the standard Steel Division 2 game to try, then this deck is probably good for you to use, and it can certainly hold its own against the more recent DLC divisions. So you're not at a disadvantage, but I think on quick play, this deck can struggle a bit depending on the maps that you come up against. Some of the maps really don't suit 5th Panzer, and the map that you saw in the game didn't suit 5th Panzer, but luckily for me, it was actually against another armoured division, Fallschirmpanzer Hermann Göring, which the map didn't really favour too heavily either. So I was able to get away with it. I did lose several games with 5th Panzer prior to that one. So, you know, I'm not an unbeatable superstar. Is that the right word? I'm not an unbeatable superstar. 5th Panzer's not be all and end all deck you're going to win every game with, but it is a good German armoured division deck, and hopefully you're going to have some fun with it. Thanks very much for watching. I am Alpha Bird. I will see you next time.